Something was already wrong the moment my mom asked me to sit down for a minute. Her voice was tight, rehearsed. My dad wouldn't look at me. Then they said my sister didn't want me at the Christmas party because I made her uncomfortable. I felt my throat close. I'd spent weeks planning that event, booking the venue through my job, arranging everything. They didn't care. They expected me to accept it quietly. I didn't. I grabbed my phone. Before I open that door again, tell me where you're watching from. I need to know who's hearing this. My day always starts the same way. The coffee maker clicks on at 6:30 and the smell fills my apartment before I even open my eyes. I sat up, pulled my hair into a loose knot, and grabbed the container of gluten-free muffins I'd baked the night before. I didn't even like them, but Lily did, and if I didn't bring them when I visited, no one else would think of it. It was easier to just handle things myself. I packed them into my work tote, checked my phone, and saw 3 unread messages from co-workers asking about table layouts for an event happening at noon. Nothing urgent, just the usual. People rely on me because I don't miss things. I like that about myself, at least at work. On the drive, I played the voice memo where I listed everything I still needed to finalize for the family Christmas party. Confirm the catering head count, send the venue the updated schedule, check if Lily had a preference for dessert. That last one had been sitting unresolved for a week. She usually texted back fast, but every time I asked this month, she left me on read. I tried again before pulling into the hotel parking garage. "Hey, just circling back on your food stuff," I typed. "I want to make sure you have options." I almost added a smiley face but deleted it. I didn't want it to sound like I was trying too hard. Inside, the lobby was buzzing with a corporate breakfast event. I slipped into the back hallway toward the office, nodding at servers who were balancing trays and glancing at me for quick direction. One asked where the extra linens were. Another asked if they should bring out the second coffee station. This was normal. I always had answers. I spent the morning adjusting seating charts, checking invoices, and emailing the venue manager we were using for my family's event. She'd given me a discount as a favor, and I didn't want to mess up anything on my end. The plan was solid. Clean, simple, festive. I actually felt kind of proud of it. Around noon, my mom called. I put her on speaker while straightening a stack of rental agreements. "Hi, honey," she said. Her voice had that soft tone she used when she was about to give feedback she thought might hurt my feelings. "What's up?" I asked. "I was just thinking, maybe this year you could tone things down. You know how Lily gets overwhelmed?" I froze with a pen in my hand. "Tone what down?" "Oh, not anything major," she said quickly. "Just, the planning, the energy. She's been a bit fragile lately." I looked at my monitor where the Christmas event checklist sat open. Everything I'd done so far was basic. Neutral colors, simple decor, nothing overwhelming. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I also knew better than to push. "Okay," I said. "Sure." When we hung up, I checked the family group chat. Mom had sent a photo of a centerpiece idea she liked. Dad had replied with a thumbs up. Lily had responded with a heart. I added my suggestion, an easier, cheaper version using what the venue already had. The typing bubbles popped up for a moment, then disappeared. No one responded. It wasn't the first time that happened. I told myself they were busy. By the afternoon, my phone stayed quiet except for work messages. Lily still hadn't answered about dessert. I sent her one more text. "Need to confirm today. Can you let me know what you prefer?" Nothing. I went to my parents' house after work because Mom said she wanted to touch base. They were in the kitchen, the overhead lights a little too bright, the dishwasher humming. My dad stood with his arms crossed. That wasn't normal for him. "Sit down for a minute," Mom said, pulling out a chair. My stomach tightened. "What's going on?" Dad cleared his throat. We talked with Lily. Okay? Mom folded her hands. She doesn't feel comfortable with you at the Christmas party this year. For a second, I thought I heard her wrong. Wait, what? She's been anxious, Mom said quietly. She feels pressured around you. Unsafe, even. I stared at them. I had spent weeks planning this. I had baked muffins that morning for a sister who couldn't even answer a text. I had used a work favor that I couldn't get back. You don't want me there, I said, my voice smaller than I meant. It's not that, Dad said. We just want to keep the peace. The dishwasher beeped behind me, the only sound in the room. Everything inside me went still. They expected me to accept this. They thought I'd quietly step aside like always. I nodded slowly, even though my chest felt tight. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just reached for my phone. The morning after my parents told me Lily didn't want me at the party, I woke up before my alarm. My chest felt tight, like I'd been holding my breath all night. The coffee maker clicked on as it always did, but the smell didn't do anything to settle me. I stood at the counter in my pajamas, scrolling through my phone, rereading the messages from the night before. Nothing new, no explanation, no follow-up. When my mom finally texted mid-morning, it started with, "Are you okay?" I typed. "I don't understand what I did," she called instead of replying by text. "Sweetie, it's not personal," she said immediately, like she'd been rehearsing it. "You just have a strong presence." I pressed my thumb against the cold edge of the counter. "What does that mean?" "It's just, you're very capable, and Lily is sensitive. It can feel overwhelming for her." My throat felt dry. "So that's my fault?" "Don't take it that way," she said. "We're trying to keep the peace." Those last words settled like a familiar script. Whenever something went wrong, keeping the peace meant I was the one adjusting. When we hung up, I set my phone down a little harder than I meant to. The apartment felt too quiet. I kept replaying the conversation, trying to figure out how having a strong presence somehow disqualified me from a holiday dinner. At work, I tried to focus on preparing a meeting room for an afternoon seminar. I unfolded linens, straightened chairs, and carried trays of glassware. My hands kept shaking when I tried to stack cups, and a few clinked together louder than they should have. While checking the table spacing, my phone buzzed. Lily had posted an Instagram story, a screenshot of a quote, "Cutting out toxic energy before the holidays." 3 of my relatives had already liked it. My stomach flipped. I tapped back through the story twice just to be sure I'd read it right. She hadn't posted anything about feeling anxious or needing support. Just that. I locked my phone and pushed it into my back pocket. My face felt hot. I didn't know if the story was about me, but the timing didn't give me much room to pretend otherwise. During lunch, Dad called. He rarely called in the middle of the day. I stepped into the empty service hallway to take it. "I've been thinking," he said. His voice was slow, like he was trying to sound calm. "Maybe you should take a year off from family holidays. Let Lily reset." I stared at a stack of folded aprons on the shelf across from me. "You want me to skip Christmas?" "Just this one. It's temporary. I'm the one who planned the whole thing." "That's part of it," he said. "Everything gets big with you. Maybe giving her space will help." I didn't trust myself to speak right away. My tongue felt heavy, and there was this buzzing in my ears that made it hard to hear anything else. "Okay," I finally said. I didn't mean it. It just came out. He sighed with relief, like that's what he'd been waiting for. When the call ended, I stayed in the hallway for a minute. The light flickered above me. My hands were shaking again. By the time I drove to my parents' house that evening, because Mom said Lily had cooled down and wanted to talk, I was exhausted. My shoulders ached from tensing all day. I sat in the driveway for a few seconds before getting out, watching the kitchen window glow with warm light. It looked normal. It didn't feel normal. Inside, the house smelled like roasted vegetables. Lily's coat was draped over a chair. Mom was chopping carrots at the counter. Dad sat at the table scrolling through his phone. Lily wasn't in the room. "Where is she?" I asked. Mom's knife paused. "She's in the living room. She's on a call. She'll come in soon." I nodded and hung my bag over the back of a chair. I could hear Lily's voice faintly through the doorway. She was on speakerphone with someone, laughing at something they said. I tried to act casual, filling a glass of water at the sink, pretending not to listen. But then her tone shifted. "No, seriously," she said to whoever was on the line. "She ruins the vibe. She doesn't even realize it." The glass slipped in my hand and hit the sink too hard. Dad glanced up for half a second, then looked back down. In the living room, Lily lowered her voice, but not enough. "I told them, I'm not dealing with her this year." My chest tightened again. I stayed frozen, one hand on the faucet knob, water still running. Mom didn't look up from the cutting board. Dad didn't react at all. Lily walked into the kitchen a moment later, holding her phone. She didn't seem surprised to see me. She didn't seem embarrassed either. She just pressed her lips into a thin smile and said, "Hey." "Hey," I said back, my voice too flat. There was a beat of silence where no one moved. "So," I said, clearing my throat, "I'd like to understand what exactly I did." Mom put a hand on Lily's arm. "Let's not turn this into something heavy." Lily rolled her eyes. "I just need space, okay? You're making this harder than it needs to be." My fingers tightened around the water glass. "I'm making it harder?" She shrugged. "You don't understand how you come off." Dad closed his phone and sighed. "Let's all just calm down." I looked at each of them. Their expressions were careful, like they were trying not to escalate anything. It wasn't anger. It was avoidance. That somehow made it worse. I swallowed. "I need a clear answer about the party." Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Lily stepped back slightly, arms crossed. Mom said it first. "It might be better if you weren't there this year." The words weren't new, but hearing them again felt different now. Colder. More deliberate. I went home that night without saying much else. I kept replaying everything in my head while I drove, fingers gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles hurt. In my apartment, I dropped my bag by the couch and sat down without turning on the lights. My phone buzzed again. A message from Lily. "I just need space. Don't make this harder." I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened the family group chat, the one I had used for all the event planning. New messages were loading, photos of tablecloth samples, notes about Aunt Susan bringing pies, a screenshot of a schedule someone had mocked up. I wasn't in the chat anymore. The realization hit me slowly, like a delayed punch. They had made a new thread, without me, and kept the planning going. My boss had approved the discount under my name. The booking was tied to my employee code. If anyone canceled, it would have to be me. The responsibility, the fallout, everything would come back to me. The pressure sat heavy in my chest. They weren't just excluding me. They were expecting me to clean up after myself, like I was the inconvenience. I sat there on the couch, the room dim and quiet, the light of my phone reflecting off my hands. For the first time all week, I didn't reach out again. I didn't ask for clarity or try to fix anything. I just let the silence sit there with me. I didn't plan on going to my parents' house that night. I had actually told myself I'd take a break from all of it, at least for a day. But around 7, Mom texted asking if I could stop by quickly to talk about logistics. She added a smiley face at the end, like everything between us was normal. I didn't trust the message, but I went anyway. Part of me still wanted answers, even if I kept pretending I didn't. Their house was dim when I pulled up. Only the living room lamp was on, glowing through the curtains. I let myself in, calling out a careful, "Hello?" so I wouldn't startle anyone. No one answered. I heard faint voices down the hallway, my mom and Lily, and figured they were in Mom's room. I slipped off my coat and hung it on the hook by the door. The house was warm, almost stuffy. My hands were cold from the drive, and I rubbed them together as I walked toward the voices. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I really didn't. But when I reached the hallway, I heard my name clearly, and my body just froze. "She told Aunt Maria that she's been talking behind my back," Lily said. Her voice was low, frustrated. "I can't believe she'd do that and then act innocent." My heart stopped for a beat. I pressed my palm lightly against the wall, steadying myself. Mom sighed. "Honey, she didn't tell Aunt Maria anything. You told everyone she did." A short silence followed. I could hear fabric rustling, like Lily shifting on the bed. "Well," Lily muttered, "she could have. You know how she is. Always trying to—" She paused. "Trying to show off. Using that party to make her job seem important." I blinked hard. The hallway lights buzzed softly above me. My jacket still hung by the door, half unbuttoned. Everything felt strange and too still. Then Mom said, "Look, it doesn't matter what's true. The point is, it's easier to leave her out than upset you." My stomach dropped. Not fast. Slow, like the floor was sinking under me and taking me with it. "It's easier?" Lily asked, almost proud. "Yes," Mom said quietly. "You know how overwhelmed you get. She'll get over it, but you won't. This is better for everyone." There it was. Plain, casual, said like it was the most logical thing in the world. A slow warmth crept up the back of my neck. I kept my breath shallow so the floor wouldn't creak under me. Mom kept talking. "You said she mocked your anxiety at Thanksgiving. If that made you feel unsafe, then we have to take that seriously." I shut my eyes. I hadn't mocked her anxiety. I remembered the moment she was probably talking about. She'd been panicking about the oven timer, and I'd gently told her it was fine, that the rolls weren't burning. That was it. That was the whole thing. "I didn't exaggerate," Lily said, defensive. "Everyone believed me." "Well, they believed you because you said it so strongly," Mom said. "But again, it's done. We just need to get through the holidays." My chest tightened. So Lily had told the relatives that I'd mocked her anxiety, that I'd talked about her behind her back, that I was using the party to show off, and none of them even asked me if it was true. They were building a story, and I wasn't part of the conversation. I was the subject of it. Mom lowered her voice again. "Your sister is intense. She doesn't realize how she comes off. If we try to confront her, it'll blow up. So we're just not inviting her," Lily said. "Yes," Mom replied. "It keeps things calm." There was a long pause. I didn't know whether to move or breathe or turn around and leave. My fingers started trembling against the wall. Lily spoke again, softer now. "Do you think she's mad?" "She'll be fine," Mom said. "She's strong. You're the one we have to protect." Something in me went still. Not numb, just quiet, like everything was suddenly clear. They weren't confused. They weren't torn between us. They weren't trying to find a fair solution. They were choosing the path that required the least work for them. Lily complained. I adjusted. Lily suffered. I absorbed it. Lily felt unsafe. I disappeared. It wasn't about keeping peace. It was about keeping her calm, and I was the easiest piece to move off the board. I stepped back slowly, careful not to make the floor creak. My pulse thudded in my ears. I felt every inhale, every exhale, like they were too loud. I walked to the kitchen and stood there, staring at the sink. My hands rested on the counter, palms flat, trying to steady myself. My reflection in the dark window looked unfamiliar, jaw clenched, eyes sharp, like I'd been slapped awake. I wasn't angry in a loud way. It was quieter, a kind of internal click, a shift. A minute later, Mom walked into the kitchen. She jumped a little when she saw me standing there. "Oh, sweetie, I didn't hear you come in." Her smile came fast, too practiced. "Were you waiting long?" I looked at her in a way I don't think I'd ever looked at her before. Direct, steady. "No," I said. My voice sounded normal, which surprised me. "Not long." She busied herself with rearranging the fruit bowl like she needed her hands to stay moving. "Lily's resting," she said. "Maybe tonight isn't the best time to talk." Nodded once. I didn't trust myself to say more without everything pouring out. But something inside me was done. Completely done. The part of me that tried to smooth things over. The part that stayed quiet to avoid upsetting Lily. The part that accepted being the one who adjusted every time. That version snapped, clean and simple. Mom kept talking about logistics, how they might switch the seating plan, how the cousins were coordinating desserts in the new group chat. But it all sounded distant. I wasn't going to correct her. I wasn't going to explain myself. I wasn't going to justify anything ever again. Not after hearing that leaving me out was easier. When I finally left the house, the cold air outside felt sharp on my face, sharper than I expected. I sat in my car with the door still open, staring at the steering wheel, letting everything settle. This time, I didn't cry. I didn't rehearse what I should have said. I didn't feel guilty for overhearing something I wasn't meant to hear. I just knew one thing with absolute clarity. I wasn't accepting the blame anymore. I waited until late evening to go back to my parents' house. I didn't warn them I was coming. I didn't want them preparing for a conversation or softening anything before I walked in. I needed to speak while everything was still fresh, before they tried to rewrite it or talk me out of what I heard. When I stepped inside, the house was quiet. The TV was off, and the only light came from the lamp near the couch. My dad was sitting in his usual armchair, scrolling through his phone. Mom was folding laundry on the coffee table. Lily sat curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket even though the heater was running. All three of them looked up when they heard the door close. Mom blinked. "Oh, we didn't know you were coming." I hung my coat on the hook. I figured. My voice came out calm, steady. It felt strange, like my body had chosen a setting that didn't allow shaking or second guessing. I walked into the living room and stopped a few feet from them. "We need to talk." Dad set his phone down slowly, wary. Lily shifted under the blanket. Mom sat straighter, folding a towel over her knee. "What's going on?" Dad asked. I took a breath. "I heard everything you said yesterday." Lily's head snapped up. "What?" Mom froze mid-fold. "Heard what?" "All of it," I said. The part where Lily said I've been talking behind her back. The part where she said I was using the Christmas party to show off my job. And the part where you, I looked at Mom, said it was easier to leave me out than upset her. No one spoke. The heater clicked on in the hallway, filling the silence with a low hum. Mom opened her mouth. "Sweetie, you shouldn't have." "I live in the real world," I cut in. "Doors don't magically block every sound." Lily's face tightened. "You were spying on us?" "I walked into the house," I said. "You were talking. I heard my name. That's not spying. That's existing." She looked away, jaw clenched. I didn't sit. I didn't move closer. I just stood there. "Let's go point by point," I said. "What exactly did I say behind your back, Lily? I want a specific example." She swallowed. "You know what you said?" "No," I replied. "I don't. That's why I'm asking." Her eyes darted to Mom. Mom jumped in. "This isn't helpful. We don't need to list incidents, I do. I said. I need one example. Just one. Lily crossed her arms tighter. I felt like you were making comments about me. Okay, I said. But what did I say? You were sighing at me, she insisted, and judging. You have that look. I asked for something, I said, I replied. Not a look. Her cheeks flushed. Why are you attacking me? I'm not attacking you, I said evenly. I'm asking for the behavior you accused me of. Because you told people I mocked your anxiety at Thanksgiving. Tell me what I said. The room went still again. Dad rubbed his forehead. This is getting emotional. It's factual, I said. She accused me of something. She told the entire family I mocked her. If you're going to punish me for it, I want the details. Mom finally put the towel down. She felt mocked. That matters. Feelings matter, I said, but they're not facts. And they don't get to erase reality? Lily stiffened. You always do this. You make everything logical and cold. I'm trying to understand, I replied calmly. If you felt hurt, tell me the moment that made you feel that way. I'll listen. She hesitated for several long seconds. You told me the rolls weren't burning. I blinked. You thought that was mocking your anxiety? You said it in a tone, she snapped, like I was overreacting. I said it quietly, I replied, because you were panicking and I didn't want to embarrass you. Lily's eyes flicked down. She didn't respond. I turned to my parents. You believed that version of the story? Without asking me? Mom looked defensive. Lily has anxiety. She experiences things differently. We have to take her feelings seriously. And mine? I asked. No answer. I exhaled through my nose, steady. I'm done paying for narratives that aren't true. Lily glared at me. So now I'm a liar? You said things that weren't real, I said. You told people I said things I never said. You assumed intentions I didn't have. And you let everyone believe it. Her throat bobbed. She didn't deny it. Dad cleared his throat, frustrated. Look, sometimes we have to adjust things so Lily doesn't get overwhelmed. That's all this is. So you admit it, I said. You adjust plans to avoid upsetting her. He hesitated but nodded. It's easier. And you encourage her to vent privately, I added, looking at Mom. Mom's shoulders slumped a little. Because she can't handle conflict. You know that. And I can, I said. So I get the conflict instead. Mom winced but didn't argue. It was the first time any of them had said these things out loud. Lily pulled the blanket tighter around herself. I just didn't want you there because you always get all the attention from the relatives. They talk about your job and what you've achieved, and it makes me feel invisible. My breath caught, not in shock but in clarity. That was the truth between every half explanation, every vague complaint. I looked at her for a long moment. So, this wasn't about my behavior. She didn't answer, but her silence confirmed everything. It wasn't me. It was never me. I straightened a little. The control in my voice surprised me. I'm not your scapegoat anymore. Dad frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said, I'm done being the person you throw under the bus whenever it keeps things smooth for Lily. He sat back, arms folding. You're being dramatic. No, I replied. I'm being clear. Mom stood up slightly, hands raised. Let's all take a breath. The holiday is still happening, and we can fix this. I shook my head. There's nothing to fix. Their confusion only lasted a second before I continued. I called the venue, I said. I canceled the reservation. Mom froze mid-step. Dad stared like he didn't understand English. Lily's eyes widened. You did what? Dad said sharply. I booked it under my name, I said. The discount was tied to my employee code. When you decided I wasn't welcome, I stepped out. And when I stepped out, the booking went with me. You canceled Christmas? Lily yelled, sitting upright. No, I said. You did that when you removed me from the group chat and told the family I was toxic. Mom pressed her hand to her forehead. Do you understand what you've done? We can't find another venue this late. Everything is booked. Yes, I said quietly. I know. Dad's voice rose. You sabotaged the entire holiday. I removed myself from a plan you said I wasn't allowed to be part of, I replied. That's not sabotage. That's consistency. Mom shook her head, pacing now. You should have talked to us first. I tried, I said. For weeks. Lily let out a loud, angry breath. You're doing this to punish me. No, I said. I'm doing this because you told everyone lies about me, and then you decided the consequence should be my absence. So I left. The room erupted again, everyone talking over each other, blaming, demanding to know how I could do this. But inside, I was still, calm, in a way I hadn't felt in months. They pushed me out. I stepped away. That's all. I picked up my coat from the hook, slid it on, and buttoned the top slowly while they continued arguing in the background. Then I looked at them one final time. I'm going home. You can handle the rest. None of them followed me to the door. The cold air outside hit my face as I stepped out, and I didn't hesitate, not even once, as I walked to my car and closed the door behind me. The morning after I walked out of my parents' house, I left my phone on silent. I didn't want to see anything from them. I didn't want to get sucked into another round of explanations or emotional cleanup. But by noon, I noticed a string of missed calls from relatives, numbers I rarely heard from directly. I sat on the edge of my bed, opened the first voicemail, and listened. My aunt's voice came through, cautious but firm. Honey, your mom said you canceled the venue. Can you call me back? I just want to hear your side. I called her. My voice stayed calm, almost detached. I told her the truth. I didn't embellish anything. I didn't add emotion or blame. I just laid out the facts, the accusations, the group chat, the overheard conversation, the choice to exclude me. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she let out a slow breath. I had no idea, she said. This isn't right. That became the pattern. 2 cousins messaged me privately. An uncle called and apologized on behalf of the older generation, even though he wasn't the one who did anything. They all sounded surprised, not necessarily at Lily's behavior, but at how far my parents had gone to accommodate it. I answered each person once, and once was enough. Later that afternoon, a friend texted me a screenshot of Lily's newest post, a blurry picture of her feet by the fireplace with the caption, "Some people will never understand what you go through." The comments were minimal. 2 hearts and 1, "You got this, babe." Nothing like the wave of support she usually expected. I didn't respond. I didn't even click her profile. There was nothing left for me to see. By Christmas Eve, I'd already made my decision. I wasn't going to any event where I was tolerated instead of wanted. I stayed home in the morning, cleaned my kitchen, folded laundry, and let myself enjoy the quiet. I didn't jump every time my phone buzzed. I didn't rehearse explanations. My shoulders felt looser than they had in weeks. That evening, I went to a friend's apartment. She'd invited a few people who didn't have big family plans. Her place smelled like garlic and butter, and there were mismatched mugs on the counter filled with hot chocolate. We sat on the floor around her coffee table eating pasta from deep bowls. No tension, no whispered conversations in the next room, no walking on eggshells. I didn't talk about my family. No one asked me to. It was simple, warm, easy. Around 9, my phone lit up with notifications. I didn't check them right away, but when I finally glanced down, a group thread with 3 cousins was blowing up. They were complaining. Apparently, my parents had decided at the last minute to host Christmas Eve at their house. The tables were cramped, the oven stopped working, the kids were bored, the living room was too small for everyone. A few people were openly annoyed that they'd been told I had ruined the original plan. One cousin wrote, "Lily finally admitted she exaggerated. This whole thing didn't need to happen." I stared at the message for a moment, not with satisfaction, just with a kind of clarity. The truth had a way of surfacing when I wasn't busy protecting everyone from it. I put the phone face down and went back to my bowl of pasta. At midnight, when I got home, the apartment was cold but peaceful. I hung my coat up, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the couch with the lights off. The tree in the corner glowed faintly, the ornaments barely shifting when the heater clicked on. I thought about all the years I'd made myself smaller so Lily wouldn't feel overshadowed. All the times I'd taken blame because it was easier for them than asking her to handle discomfort. All the little concessions I assumed were normal, but I wasn't doing that anymore. They had shown me exactly where I stood, and instead of fighting for a place in a room that didn't want me, I walked out. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't payback. It was just clarity. A quiet kind of freedom I hadn't realized I'd been missing. When New Year's Eve arrived a week later, I didn't make resolutions or write goals or talk about working on myself. I just opened my windows, let the cold air move through the apartment, and breathed without feeling like I needed permission to exist the way I was. For the first time in a long time, I stepped into the new year without shrinking myself to make space for anyone else. If you stayed with me through all of that, thank you. And if you want more stories like this, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Before you go, I'm curious. Have you ever had to step back from family just to protect your own peace? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your side.